Hey, coaches, this is Coach Parker with Coaching Youth Football Tips and Talk podcast over at CoachParker.org. How you guys doing today? I'm your host, Coach Parker. Hey, I know it's been a while, but got a pretty good podcast today. It's going to be a multi-part series on choosing a youth football offense. This is part one. This is about half of the important variables that we'll look at when choosing a youth football offense. So let's get started. This has been kind of a tough decision on actually writing the article. I was kind of excited to get into it. One of the coaches on my private Facebook group posed a question on, how do you choose a youth football offense when you've got a small offensive line, small backs, they're all rookies. I've got a lot of MPP players and all of that. And in the chat, I was just answering them based on age group. And he's like, no, what about all the offenses and all these variables that go into that? So it became kind of an interesting, interesting puzzle to look at. And then I went down the rabbit hole, definitely looking for the hidden door and magic solution on trying to answer probably a very difficult question for many experienced coaches, and man, got to be tough for rookie coaches that are first year getting into tackle. I know back in '94 when I was starting to coach, I installed a Power I because that's what I'd run in high school, and was trying to do some funky things, and that didn't really work out, and wound up going to the Beast and its variables or variations. So I wanted to go through this exercise to see if it made sense on trying to put some kind of, matrix together to help coaches out. And what I'm finding through my research, and, I think it's quite obvious, is that there's no one great answer to this problem. So I'm going through this process, writing about it. Hopefully you guys will enjoy the process and look at it. But it's been quite difficult. And so here we go. So like I said, this is going to be a multi-part article podcast that will go through talking about variables, the offenses, the variables within the offenses, and then age group issues, and kind of going through that whole thing. So I would like to thank a bunch of the coaches over on my Facebook group, the Wing T, Single Wing, Double Wing Facebook forums, and also Coach Kessler and Green for their thoughtful input into this exercise. So here we go. And when I say youth football, I'm talking 5U to 12U. I know there's some 7th and 8th grade coaches over in the forums, and they're talking about spread and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But we're really talking about rec football, and this is how this article is written, actually, is for a rookie, kind of the perspective of a rookie first-year coach that doesn't have a lot of experience with anything, really, as far as tackle football yet. So that's how I'm doing that. But one of the things I did find in, the research and talking to coaches was that, experienced coaches kind of know what they like and what they do. I mean, I'm sort of biased, and, I'll get that out there. I'm kind of biased for the Beast and my Power Wing Beast offense playbook and Wildcat playbook stuff, schemes. But similarly, the double wing guys, the single wing guys, and the wing T guys think their systems are so easy to learn and do, and, any age group can do those. So we're all sort of biased into what we know and what we're confident at coaching as experienced coaches. And like I said, this is for rookie coaches. So, that's where we're going for this. The one thing that you could be that rookie coach that gets an awesome roster, great parents, and you've got just this innate ability to coach young kids. And so you're your I guess results may vary. So than what I'm kind of talking about here, and that's really for everybody. This is my opinion. Uh, it's up for debate. Please debate in the comments or over on my groups. Would love to hear from everybody. If you don't like something here, let me know. I'll think about it and probably update the. This will probably be one of those articles that I update every other year or so, just to kind of go through it. So before we get really into it, sort of I've said the age of the players is 5U to 12U. Majority of this is really 7U to 12U kind of deal. 5 and 6U, you're just happy to be out there and those kids having a good time. So we can talk about some of that as we get into the age issues. But some of the offenses, just to let you know, that we'll be talking about eventually in probably part 2, 3, is I did a poll, and it looks like this poll is polling really close to a current poll I'm doing on the Facebook groups of the pretty popular youth football offenses. So just some percentages of coaches that have been on my website for many years of what they're running, and I ask them to choose 2 or 3. So this is kind of those percentages as their main kind of offenses. Is just to let you know, I formation was about 16% of coaches, double wing 12%, single wing 9%, wing T 9%, power I 9%, split pro set 9%, wishbone 8%, spread 6%, pistol 6%, T formation 5%, beast was around 4%, options 4%, offset I 4%, and other was around 2%. So you can take that how you want it, but those seem to be tracking pretty close to what those numbers are tracking now for current coaches over there. So we'll be talking about these offenses in the future, how the variables I'll talk about today kind of affect those and maybe your choice. So let's get into part 1 of this now, which let's go through all the variables. And this is what I call kind of the important variables when you're considering and evaluating a youth football offense and what you should choose for your team. And I'm going to rattle these 20, there's 25 of them, and you may think it's overcomplicated, and it might be, because I'm kind of the Moby Dick Melville writer versus the Hemingway short and sweet kind of person, because I've always been, give me a lot, I'll take from there what I want kind of thing. So you guys should do that too. And I do that with like playbooks and everything I read. I hardly ever take exactly everything. I'm kind of picking and choosing what I like and then making it mine. So here we go. So these key variables that I'm going to look at is age of your players, experience level of the players, maturity and memory of your players, the size of player, size of your roster, that means the number of players, your minimum play rules and those players that are in that, amount of practice time per week, coach's experience and knowledge of an offense, and if they're confident in coaching it, your assistant coach's experience levels, and also with the offense, rec versus select league, your competition skill level, the type of defenses you might see in your league, the type of snap, if it's a gun or under center or a squat kind of snap, your size of your lineman, the blocking skills and calls that you're using, pulling lineman or non-pulling lineman. Is there multiple formations, shifts, and motion within an offense? Your quarterback skills. Your quarterback's got good footwork, hands, passing. What are those? Then passing capabilities. It's just not about the pass and what your quarterback can do. Can you block and all that other good stuff and catch? What's the speed of your team and your running backs? What's the number of your top running backs that you've got that you feel like are really running backs? Do you think you're more power, speed, misdirection, or pass type offense roster? What's going on there? What's the versatility and flexibility of the offense you're looking at? Can it grow with you? Is it flexible enough to, change weekly for opponents? Your offensive system, the one you're looking at, is it easy to learn, install, execute? And are there available offensive materials, resources, and playbooks? So these are 25 things here. And so let's get into the first about 12. And I'm going to start out with this first one because all of the coaches have kind of leaned into this, and even I kind of lean into it. Shoot. So really, when you're looking at, choosing the right youth football offense for your team, is coach what you know, what you have experience with, and what you're confident doing. And that really has been the recurring piece of advice from a lot of experienced coaches. If you grew up running the double wing and you could tone it down for youth or not tone it down for youth, that's of course the question in the double wing group, or you power I or beast or whatever. If you're good at that, you're a rookie coach and you already know those, that then don't no reason to reinvent the wheel if you feel like you can coach that at the youth level. But if you don't have all that and you're a little scared and you haven't done it before, not been an offense coordinator, and your team's age or skill level doesn't really match up to what you're thinking, along with your experience and your coach's experiences, then you really kind of have to look at maybe this a little closer. But if you're considering, to learn a new offense, remember, learning a new offense kind of takes a season, about a year, to really kind of figure it all out and really get happy with it. So I know a lot of times when I get a new crop of kids or I go into a new league, it takes about a half season to a season really to work yourself into that. And that's kind of the same way with an offense. So, if you know an offense, stick with it. If you've got experience with it, stick with it. If you're new, then start looking at some new offenses, and we can help you go through it here. So the next variable is your age of your players. The younger they are, you need it easier to learn, execute, and it's more fun. The older they are, you can make it more complex. 6, 7, 8, those are pretty tough age groups, especially after COVID. 9, 10, 11U were a lot of fun. 12U is, man, you've got an experienced team at 12U, you can do a lot of cool stuff. But, 5, 6, 7, 8, you may be running a very simplified offense formation, 8 plays or less, focusing on the run, not doing too many footwork and hand skills, like handoff, tosses, motions, pulling linemen, just because you're needing to keep things pretty simple. After 8U, I think, you can pretty much start doing a lot of stuff. But so that's kind of the age of the players. Keep it easy to learn, execute, fun. The younger they are, and the older they get, you can start thinking about more sophisticated things. Experience of your players, like I said, if you got a 9U group that's been together like 2 or 3 years, from 6U versus 11 or 12U rookies, that 9U team probably can learn a lot more stuff because they've been in your system, the language, all of that stuff. So take a look at your experience of your players. If they're high experienced players, then you can probably install some pretty sophisticated offensive schemes. But if they're rookies and or they're not very mature yet, which is the next thing, you probably can't do that just yet. So you need to kind of prioritize what you're thinking there and decide, if I've got a group of rookies, I probably need to run something very simple. If I've got experienced players, of course, I can go for more sophistication. This comes to maturity and memory of players. This is a big issue, especially at 6, 7, 8, maybe 9U. Sometimes players physically are ready for it, but mentally, with their memory and their football IQ for experience reasons, they don't really have it yet. And trying to put something sophisticated in doesn't really work. So you really need to kind of look at that. We've had a lot of good players at younger ages that were very physical, great on defense, but we had a hard time moving them into the backfield or a skill possession like a tight end or a pulling guard or a center, on the offensive line because they couldn't remember everything. So, they didn't know where to go. Sometimes right and left becomes a major issue at some of these ages. And a little tip I gave somebody the other day is just take a permanent marker, Sharpie, and put right and left on their palms, not their palms, but the back of their hand. And that helps out a lot with right and left. But yeah, so take a look at that memory and maturity of your players. More mature, more sophistication, better memory, more simplified offense if they can't remember stuff and are not ready for it. Your size of your players, this is one you go back and forth. I think it becomes a bigger issue as the older teams on the size of players. At the younger ages, I don't think it's a big deal. I've played on small teams. I've coached small teams. So if you've got good technique and fundamentals, you can run a lot of stuff. But as you get older, those bigger offensive line and backs kind of become an issue there. So you're just going to look at your size of your players and see what you've got there. Bigger players definitely are advantageous, but not all the time. As you know, overweight, out of shape players are not as good as quick, medium-sized players. So just take a look at that. It will have an effect. Your size of your roster and the number of players definitely can cause an issue, especially with minimum play rules and minimum play players. You're only good as your weakest link. So if you've got a 30-player roster and you're having to get a lot of kids in, maybe a whole quarter or 2 quarters a game, then a sophisticated offense may not work because you're having to sub a lot of kids into this sophisticated offense. So you might want to take a look at that. So that's that. The other big factor really that I come in contact with is I love to have 3 or 4 practices a week, but the rec league that I've been coaching in for the last 10 to 12 years, we only get 2 practices a week and then a game. And if we don't have a game, we can have 3 practices, but it's like just 2 practices a week. So if, the more practices you have, you can install a lot more cool stuff. If you don't have a lot of time, you can't. So, you got to weigh that. Do you have enough practice time with the number of kids and what you're trying to accomplish both on special teams and defense? Can I install a more sophisticated offense? So you want to look at that. So practice time really becomes a pretty major factor. I know I'll install more double wing T, kind of all motion, jet, rocket, all that good stuff if I've got 3 practices a week or my kids are really, really experienced with 2 practices a week. If not, I'm kind of toning down by offenses a little bit. The other thing along with the head coach's experience is your assistant coach. As a head coach, you might be a rookie, and your assistants, you could get lucky and find some assistant coaches that don't want to be a head coach but want to be an offensive coordinator. They already know these systems and are pretty happy with it. So if you trust that assistant coach and you can let him go, then it really helps to have great assistant coaches. So that may be one way that you could run a more sophisticated offense, is if your assistant coach already has that experience and you trust them and your talent and everything matches up. So there you go with that. You may be in a rec or select league, which may have an effect on what kind of offense you want to choose. Rec leagues, like I've been in, we get a group of kids. They come in, they're pooled together. We choose a subset. Some rec leagues even assign players. You don't even kind of pick them. So versus select travel where you hand pick kids. So if you can hand pick your roster, you can definitely have a better, more sophisticated offense because you've got better athletes and you know what you're getting. In rec leagues, it's kind of a hit or miss. We both have spring and fall. We basically get a new team every spring and fall, and a lot of them, half of them are kind of rookies. So it's really hard to install sophisticated things at first unless we've, been able to keep a couple of kids. And sometimes we're able to do that. But yeah, so you just need to look at, are you rec or can you select your kids? That's going to help you determine what kind of offense to run there. The other thing is the competition and skill level within your league and in your group that you're playing. What are they good at? Are they a select group versus a rec group? And do you need to really run a sophisticated offense to beat these teams? Or can you run something very simplified? So you want to look at that. The other thing kind of along that same line is the defenses in the league. If your league is really good, and I've known some leagues that are really good at stopping the double wing because they've seen that a lot. That may not be the best offense, maybe run in that league because all the coaches know how to deal with that particular offense. So, you kind of need to look at what works within your league. One of the little tips that I've given a bunch of coaches is every time I go to a new league, I'll take out to lunch one of the commissioners and kind of ask all these questions about who's the best coach, what do they do, what does everything look like in the league, what everybody's doing, what offenses, defenses, specialty, kind of what everybody's doing, and kind of get an idea what's going on. And that's a really good thing to do. So that's what I would suggest for that. So that's about halfway through those important variables on looking at how to choose a youth football offense. We're at about 20 minutes here, so I'm going to head off and cut this one off so we can move into part 2, where we'll get really into more, I guess, the skill set for different offenses and the players that'll fit into those offenses. And that's what we'll talk about in part 2. And I don't know if you guys have heard, but I'm doing virtual clinics now. So you can schedule one of those over at coachparker.org if you'd like to talk to me and go over kind of what your offense is, how to choose your offense or what you're doing, or if you're having issues, you could head over there and look at scheduling a virtual clinic with me. So again, this is Coach Parker with Coaching Youth Football Tips and Talk podcast over at coachparker.org. Stay tuned for part 2, probably mid of next week, as we go through more on choosing a youth football offense. Hey, it's been a joy talking to you guys again. I hope to see you guys again soon. Remember to play for fun, and winning is funner. Again, this is Coach Parker with coachparker.org. See you guys next time. Ciao.